Hey guys, hope everyone's going well. Hope everyone has had a great day, middle of the week. So I hope everyone's training hard and has at least got hopefully a little bit of bike time in. What I'm going to be talking about today is mapping out your race day, okay, and how to be able to plan for race day and being able to do that now in the pre-season. So obviously we're coming towards the end of the season for enduro, for road racing, for motocross. Okay, most people are finishing up and coming towards the end of the season, and this is actually the most important time to be able to get things back on track for the coming season next year. Okay, so a lot of people take time off, they have a bit of a break, but what we want to be able to focus on is being able to get everything set now, doing all the hard work, doing all the groundwork, doing all the testing over the period when we have the time off and we're not using our races as tests. We can use our practice as tests to be able to get ready for next season. So what I want to be able to talk about is being able to have a plan and being able to have an action plan in place for race day and knowing exactly how race day is going to pan out and what you're going to do on race day. So a couple of the things that we want to be able to focus on is looking at obviously food, looking at our liquid and water intake, and looking at timing throughout the day. So we want to be able to make sure that we're timing our food correctly throughout the day. We want to be able to make sure that we have all our food prepared, ready to go, so that we spend the least amount of time possible on the race day looking after our health and getting us in shape, so we can focus most of our time on riding and racing and being able to get the best results that way. So what we want to make sure is that going into race day, you want to make sure you have a bit of a plan. So you want to make sure you have everything mapped out. And the best way to be able to do this is to write everything down of what's going to happen for breakfast, morning tea, lunch, dinner, afternoon tea, any snacks, how many bottles of water you're going to need. Getting all this organized prior. So we're talking on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if you're racing on Sunday, being able to get everything organized. So making sure you have enough water there so you don't need to go to the canteen or go backwards and forwards to be able to get water on the day and rely on what the canteen has. Being able to make sure that you have got all your food ready. So being able to go and buy a whole heap of containers. So you can either use like Tupperware containers or like plastic Chinese containers, you know, those little clear ones. And we're able to use them. And what you can do then is then map out all your food the day before. So on the Saturday, the day before race day, what we want to be aiming, and even for practice as well, this is something you want to be able to do, is be able to get everything ready. So if you're having a serving of meat and you're having your salad, get all your salad chopped up and ready to go. Okay, cook up all your meat and cut that up and make sure it's ready to go and put that in the container. If you're having things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, making sure that they're all prepped and ready, and that's all cooked and prepared as best you can do it, and put it in the container. So when race day comes, when practice day comes, all you have to worry about is grabbing that container and literally getting the fork, sticking it in there and eating it. And that means you can walk around and do other stuff. You can do all the other things that you normally do, whether that's going and talking to other riders and racers, looking at the track, walking the track, sorting out the bike, whatever it is. When you've got everything with you, it's much easier to be able to take in rather than trying to find half an hour on race day to try and prepare your food, get everything organized, get the stove going, go and remember all the stuff that you've forgotten at home and having to go to the canteen or borrow it off someone else and not being able to get everything organized. So you want to make sure you do that. And the next thing you want to be able to make sure is that you also have all your, so like I mentioned before, getting all your water organized as well. So you want to make sure you have plenty of water on board, ready to go. So it's all readily available for you, and preferably having that cold or chilled. So bringing an esky with you, being able to have a camping fridge with you, whatever it is. Hey, Tim, whatever it is, being able to make sure that you have everything with you prepared, as organized as you can be. It's similar to like with your bike. You have your toolbox there with all your tools and all your spares and everything ready to go in the trailer. You want to make sure that you do the same thing with your nutrition. You want to make sure you have everything there prepared, ready to go. You don't want to have to go and find things on the day or realize that you forgot your carbohydrates or you forgot your natural fats or you forgot your protein. And that's the other thing as well, being able to make sure you prepare your protein. So get all your protein shakes ready, okay? Being able to make sure you've got them in their containers or you've got them in their cups or shakers ready to go, so that after every race, you just have to go there and get it. You don't have to worry about opening up the protein packet and trying to scoop it out while you're sweating your ass off after you've just had a race and that's the last thing you feel like doing. You want to make everything as easy as possible for yourself on race day and any time you go riding, so that we can actually maximize the time that you have riding, maximize the time that you have racing, so you can spend it on the actual sport, on the actual riding and racing, rather than trying to get all this other stuff in. And although this is super important, we want to make sure that we get this as organized as possible, because on race day, we want to make sure you're just focusing on the riding and racing side of things, not spending all your time trying to prepare meals and get water and get your protein shakes ready and make sure everything's going in time. The next thing that we want to be able to focus on is having a schedule. So we want to have a rough schedule. Even if you have a whiteboard in your trailer in your pits, being able to map out when everything's going to happen. So if you go, okay, race 1 is going to be at 9 o'clock, race 2 is going to be at 11 o'clock, then they're going to have an hour for lunch at 1 o'clock, and then my third race is going to be at 2 o'clock, then you're able to map out your food accordingly. So obviously with our carbohydrates, with our protein, we want to make sure that we time our simple carbs, so our fruits, 45 minutes prior to each race. And we want to make sure that as soon as we come in, we have our protein shake with water, part of a protein shake with water. So what we want to be able to make sure is that we have this time to the T, because timing is crucial with food and energy, okay? It's not just about just getting food in on the day. We need to make sure we get it in and we get the right quantities, but we also need to make sure we're having the right stuff, as getting it in at the right time. Otherwise, we're going to mistime the amounts of energy that we have, and we're going to mistime our recovery, which is super important for your endurance and longevity on race day. So when we have a whiteboard, what you can do is map out time markers on the whiteboard, okay? Something I actually do on a daily basis. So I have a little whiteboard that I use, which I do on a daily basis, where I map out all the times of the day and then put in what I'm going to do at each time of the day. So you guys need to be able to do exactly the same thing for riding and race day, to be able to map out exactly how it's going to go. So if you know that, okay, first race is at 9 o'clock, then you know when it's getting close to 8 o'clock, you need to make sure that you're ready to go to get your fruit in at 15:15, okay, or you're going to be able to do that. And then likewise, when you come in from a race, you need to know that, okay, you need to have your protein, and then you'll be able to map out when you're going to have your lunch. You're able to map in when you're going to have your breakfast, map in when you're going to have your recovery shakes. You're able to map everything out. And what you're going to find, and this is something we were talking about on our group call with the guys in our motorsport development program the other night, is it's amazing how much more you get done when you have a schedule. It's amazing how much you don't get done when you don't have a schedule. So you think about like your gym training time, right? If you go into the gym and you knew exactly what you had to do every gym session, you'll be surprised at how much you're actually able to get in, rather than rocking up to the gym and looking for the free equipment, or waiting for the right time to jump on equipment, or coming up with a workout. We waste so much time hesitating and thinking about doing stuff that we actually don't get a lot of stuff done. So having that plan is going to allow you to be able to get a lot more in on race day, to be able to make sure everything's timed correctly. And it's also going to get rid of a little bit of the anxiety and anxiousness with regards to trying to get all your food in and getting everything in at the right time. Because what you're going to find is when you have a schedule, all you have to do is follow the schedule and you get the results. When you don't have a schedule, what starts to happen is we start to go off track. Hey, Adam, we start to go off track because we don't have an accurate plan of what we're working towards. And we get anxious and nervous because there's uncertainty there. We don't know what we need to do. Everything's all over the place. We've got to sort our fruit out, get our protein shake sorted. Everything's all over the place, as well as worrying about your riding and racing. You start to get a bit overwhelmed. So when you have that schedule, it's very easy to be able to reduce that level of anxiousness or nervousness of not being able to fit everything in and stuffing something up. Because you have everything timed. And that you can not only apply this for timing with nutrition and hydration, but also with other things as well. So if there's certain things you need to do with the bike, washing it, maybe that's an air filter, maybe that's checking suspension, maybe that is checking tires, whatever it is. Everyone has their different things that they do on race day. You can start to implement these into your schedule as well. Now, this schedule is not going to be bulletproof. Okay, let's just say that your first race is supposed to be at 9 a.m. and maybe there's been a big accident on race day, okay, and that's held up the racing for half an hour. So now it's at 9:30. When you have a schedule, what that allows you to do is to be able to manipulate it and be able to change things. When you don't have a schedule, then that makes things even more hectic because you have no idea what's going on. So when we have a schedule, we have everything mapped out. What that means is that we have something to be able to change. So if you go, okay, my first race is at 9 o'clock. Oh, shit. Now I've got to change everything. So now you move your next race to 9:30, which means, okay, then I've got to hold off half an hour before I take in my fruit. Okay. So when you have a schedule there, it's not that this is 100% gold and this is exactly what's going to happen and how the day's going to play out, because chances are it won't. Something's going to change, but at least it gives you something to be able to change. When you don't have that something to be able to change, then that's when you start to get into trouble, because it's you're kind of just winging it. You're reacting to everything that's happening rather than having a solid plan ready to go. And this also gives you time for flexibility, mobility work, to be able to warm up before you go and race. Maybe perhaps even do some foam rolling to be able to go and have a look at the track. It just structures your time a lot better. And all you have to do is just follow the structure, because you've already done that when you're in when you didn't have all the chaos of race day. So being able to map out what happens on race day, what happens on practice day is really important. And particularly from a practice point of view, being able to map out exactly what you're going to do on a practice day. So I find that a lot of riders and racers, and this was myself included for 14 years, just rocked up to the track and just went and rode. Okay, like you spend a couple of hours at the track, or half a day, however long it is, and you just go, you get out there, you go for a ride, you come in, you have a break, talk to your friends or whoever's there with you, go back out for a ride, and then you come back in. There's not really much structure. And what you'll find is you'll get a lot more benefit from your riding sessions, from your racing, if you have a set structure for what you do every time you go for a ride. So if you know that you're going for a ride, let's say you went for a ride tonight, right? And you had 2 hours there for riding time. That's how long you had. If you map out that 2 hours, you're going to know exactly what you're doing, and you're going to find that, number one, you get a lot more riding in because you know exactly what you're doing. But number two, it's going to be a lot more efficient and a lot more beneficial, because then we can start to break up blocks within our riding period. And what that means is when we're breaking up blocks, we can say, okay, something I've really struggled with over this previous season has been starts. So you spend you go out for, so let's just say you start riding at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? 5 to 5:10, you go and do a few sight laps, have a look at the track. You come in for 10 minutes, have a 10-minute break. That means at 5:20, then we're going out, okay, we're practicing 20 minutes of starts. Then that means at 5:40, okay, we're coming in for another 10-minute break. 5:50, getting ready to go out. One of the main things that you'll find is you probably don't realize how long you're resting for and how much time you're spending in the pits unless you actually tracked it. And this applies for training as well. So if you guys have ever done interval training, where we have heavy work periods or intense work periods and then rest periods, what you'll find is that when you get tired and you get fatigued, those rest periods start to shrink up and be very quick. So let's just say you rested for a minute. When you do those the first couple of times, the minute feels like forever. When you start to get tired and fatigued, that minute doesn't feel like very long. Now, obviously when we're doing interval training, we have a gauge to let us go again. When we're going out riding or out on practice day, we don't have that gauge. If you don't have that schedule to get back out on the track, chances are you'll just sit there longer because you'll perceive it as being the same length as what the length that you sat there before. So really, you should be going for a ride, coming in, you can rest for 10 to 15 minutes and then be able to get out there again, okay? When you let the things of socializing and talking and all those things come into your practice, it starts to eat up a heap of time. And what starts to happen is you spend a heap more time sitting down in the pits, talking, not doing stuff that's actually helping with your riding and racing because you don't have that schedule there, okay? So that's not saying don't socialize, don't enjoy yourself. Go for it, but you need to be able to control the amount of time you do that, because chances are it's probably a lot more than what you think. So having a whiteboard there, having something to be able to gauge exactly what's happening, to tell you when you need to come in, when you need to go out, is something that's really going to be able to help you and really be able to provide a lot more value for your riding and races day. It's all about planning. All about being able to have a schedule, and you want to make sure that you're as organized as possible. And all this organization doesn't go on race day or on practice day. It goes on the day before race day, okay, or previous days. And once you start to get a bit of a routine going, a bit of a schedule, and you've done all the hard yards and put in the time the day before, it starts to become a routine. And you know what to do, okay? So you'll have your whiteboard there. You'll know exactly what to map out. It's not going to be that much of an effort. The first couple of times you do it, it may be a bit of an effort and take a little bit of time. But as you get used to it and you have that schedule there, then you're going to know exactly what you're doing, exactly how long each race is going to go for, roughly when each race is going to be. For practice day, you know exactly what you need to be able to do to be able to map out your days and make it as efficient as possible. So all about being able to have a look at this season, have a look at your races, pick out your weaknesses and put them into your practice plan so that you know exactly what you're going to work on, okay? So just to recap on what we talked about today, for those guys that jumped on halfway through, just being able to make sure that you schedule everything. So scheduling your food, your nutrition, scheduling your water intake, scheduling when your race is going to be, making sure you have a whiteboard there with you on race day or on practice day, mapping out exactly when you're going to have breakfast, when you're going to have your pre-race meal, when you're going to have your post-race meal, when you're going to have lunch, timing everything. Even though this is something that you're probably not 100% going to be able to stick to, we want to make sure that we've got something there, at least a plan, because